Today's lesson deals with the beginnings of early literature. And we're going to talk about the difference between myths and folk tales, and then different types of myths. And a myth is just a traditional story, often about gods and goddesses, that serves to explain natural phenomena in the human situation or the origin of belief or ritual. A perfect example that we looked at is Theseus. Theseus, we have gods and goddesses. We have Dionysus. We have Hades. We have Theseus praying to Aphrodite. We have a whole lot of gods and goddesses in that work. And we also have an explanation of how things came into be. For example, when Dionysus falls in love with Ariadne, his wedding present to her, when he marries her, explains to us how the Northern Coronet constellation came into being. We also learned that when Aegeus sees the black sails on Theseus' ship and thinks that he's dead, he jumps off a cliff and into the sea and drowns, and we get the name of the Aegean Sea. So that's a myth. Another type of myth is an origin myth, explains how things came to be. We also have creation stories, which explains also how things came into be. And the creation story from the Bible, a perfect example of that. Next, after myths, another type of myth we get to are destruction myths. And destruction myth explains how a society ends or the world itself came to an end. A perfect example of a destruction myth would be a flood cleansing the world for a new beginning. A golden age of peoples lost to evil, sickness, or death. And we know about Noah and the flood as a destruction story in the Bible, how God wanted to start over again. So he talked to Noah, saved all the animals, got on board the ark, and after it rained, he helped repopulate the world. Now, folktale is different from a myth. A folktale deals with ordinary people having extraordinary experiences. And Green Willow is a perfect example of a folk tale, a Japanese folk tale. Tomotada is just an ordinary samurai, and he has an extraordinary experience where he falls in love with Green Willow. He ends up not completing his quest, and then he marries her, and then 5 years later, all of a sudden, her willow tree is chopped down, and she dies literally in his arms. A folk tale. Some other works, important titles you need to know. Heroic literature celebrates and records the great deeds of heroes and heroines. Beowulf would be a perfect example of that. Sacred literature deals with religious faith, and they usually is written or sung to be chanted. The Book of Psalms, perfect example of that in the Bible. Okay? Wisdom literature, all right, just like it sounds, instructs or advises wise or moral behavior. And the Book of Proverbs and the Book of Wisdom are perfect examples of that. And one last definition that's important to know is the whole idea of the archetype. Common elements of situations and characters that appear again and again in the literature. And archetypes, good and evil, people going on a quest, these are common themes that we see in literature quite often.